Hi, my name is Lily, and today I'm going to be talking about how I view the world we live in as a matrix and then how I connect that back to astrology. A way I like to look at humanity in relation to the structure of our planet is like a very advanced video game or matrix. In this perspective, we have free will to play the game however we want to, but there are some things that are already predetermined that we're meant to experience, good and bad. Although we do have free will, most people are going to be repeating the same patterns in their life, maybe making gradual changes, but oftentimes a lot of people remain stagnant, repeating the same patterns. You can also use free will to go against your best interest and self-sabotage your journey. Natal astrology is a way to read these events and challenges that individuals will face in their lifetime while also analyzing the structure of your psyche and how that individualized perspective is being projected and expressed to the rest of the world. Like a video game, you can co-create with what structure already exists in the world, so the map, the layout, the characters, or the NPCs, and based on your actions and responses to other characters or side quests, your character will be different and have different experiences. But ultimately, you are tied to a specific plot. I view a matrix in more physical terms as a grid system made of electricity in which information is compiled everywhere in the system. Like this, or this, maybe this. This one's like a little more abstract. As a blank canvas, I picture it kind of like an AutoCAD system. Whoop! It is a 3D reality that is customizable to the individual before you reincarnate here. Then, once you're here, you have to endure whatever chaos you have decided you wanted to experience while here. You lose the greater wisdom and understanding of the entirety of the universe in order to have an authentic learning experience. You are blinded to your purpose and lessons to learn unless you take the time to look within. Earth is like an existing online game that if you want to enter into, you have to be born organically into the system and play whatever role that you signed up for. Planets are like physical docking points that you can enter in the matrix. It's like different worlds to play on. You can see here the glyphs for the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and the Moon, and how they're set up in a space-time continuum model. And you can kind of see how it looks like wormholes for the planets and the luminaries coming up. Kind of like, it looks like an entrance to me. I do also believe that there are beings that exist on even higher levels of consciousness, even outside the matrix, that monitor lower consciousness beings and design new entry points to play the game. They operate at higher frequencies, so they have a greater capacity for understanding. When I say frequency, I'm talking about the vibration on the electromagnetic spectrum, which coincides with the different levels of consciousness. You can think of the different frequencies related to the colors of the chakra systems. Of the 7 main chakras represented in the visible light spectrum, we have the root chakra as red, the sacral chakra as orange, the solar plexus as yellow, the heart chakra as green, the throat chakra as blue, the third eye chakra as indigo, and the crown chakra as violet or white. A majority of people on Earth have unbalanced chakra systems, as it's easy to get stuck in cycles in which you're holding on to fear, guilt, shame, grief, lies, illusion, and earthly attachment. There is a book series I'm going to be referencing a lot in this video. It's called The Raw Contact, Teaching the Law of One, which is essentially a channeling of information from a higher consciousness collective that formed on Venus at the 6th density. You've probably heard of Ra being referenced as the sun god. They said they previously tried to share their message before in ancient Egypt with mixed results. The information collected in these channelings is very interesting, regardless of whether or not you truly believe someone could actually channel information like that. The topics are very thought-provoking. These channelings were done in the early 80s. One of the things said is that Earth operates in the first 4 dimensions or densities of consciousness. With each density is an experience of different cycles of evolution. A lot of more modern spiritual channelers have said that Earth is moving into a more 5th dimensional energy, and that's why things seem to be really chaotic. Right before a big shift, there are oftentimes great destruction of old systems no longer aligning with the changing energies. Some have said that we have already shifted into 5th dimensional energies. It's just we are stuck in the same repeating patterns that to people who aren't really tuned into the energy, it can seem like nothing has changed. But when you're doing the same thing every day and not actively trying to connect with other things, then of course you're not really going to notice any changes in the frequency. As you master each density, you continue to move up, or really you move deeper within yourself. Density is how compact something is. So in that definition, the more density energetically, the more light. The higher concentration of light within your energy body. As you raise your consciousness, you hold more light, which positively impacts the planet and others around you. Colors in general indicate a particular vibrational frequency. The location of colors on the visible light spectrum indicates the speed at which they are vibrating. If you think of a rainbow, red is at the bottom and it has a longer wavelength, so it's going to have less repetitions per second. Hertz is the measurement of the number of wave cycles that pass through a point in 1 second. The higher you move through the rainbow, the faster the repetitions are. Purple being the highest color that humans can see with the naked eye. Because Earth operates in the first 4 densities, or maybe 5 now, this would mean that red, orange, yellow, and green, or indigo for doing the 5D thing, these are the colors of the first 4 chakra centers. I'm now going to start to explain the differences between these different densities or levels of consciousness and what is learned in each stage according to the raw material. As a planet evolves, it begins in the first density, which is red. The first density of Earth is the 4 elements: water, earth, fire, and air. These are the basic building blocks that are needed for our planet for higher levels of consciousness to survive. In the beginning, it is chaos, as this level of incarnated life needs to slowly form self-awareness as the elements find their place. The beginning of Earth was very chaotic, and time was needed for it to find balance. It was very hot here, and there was no oxygen, and there were frequent collisions to Earth's surface. This is when they say that the moon was formed due to a giant collision on Earth's crust, causing it to break off and eventually form the moon. Of course, this is a hypothesis that has been formed by observing how other solar systems develop over time. Some conspiracy theorists disagree with this, saying that the moon was artificially created or that it's hollow and the aliens live in there. And, I don't know about that, but science generally accepts that that's when the moon was formed. If you think about the root chakra, its focus tends to be on survival and the connection with the physical body. This density is all about creating that foundation to move up and expanding consciousness. In the raw material, they were able to give a rough estimation for the lengths of time that the planet was in the first density, which was approximately 2 billion Earth years. The second density is associated with the color orange and is continuing laying the groundwork for higher densities of evolution. This includes the basic mechanisms for reproduction and the development of bisexual reproduction, which is where a single organism has the ability to produce the sperm and the eggs. The raw material estimates that the time spent here at this density was the longest, around 4.6 billion years. Now, we already see that this current timeline does not line up with the current estimation of Earth's age, which is 4.5 billion years. That's why it's important to keep in mind that these are all approximations, and time can be relative and hard to give exact calculations for something so big in scale to us. And this book was written, channeled from 6th-dimensional consciousness, and so for them to try to put it into perspective, the timing for us, it can be a little hard to translate, apparently. At this level, we see the development of higher plant and animal life and some minerals. This includes vegetables, trees, and there is also bipedal types of animals, but generally they chose to move around more dominantly on 4 legs. These second density beings had higher energy centers, but they were not activated yet. Kind of like how humans have the ability to develop higher energy centers, but not everyone is actively working on doing that, at least consciously. A quote from the book is, "They become aware of the intelligent energy within each portion, cell, or atom, as you may call it, of its beingness. There is an inevitable pull towards the, what you may call, eventual realization of the self. The beings at this level evolve to the third density by developing self-consciousness and self-awareness. Sometimes there is help from other third density beings to evolve higher from the second density. We can see this in some more advanced animals like dolphins or dogs and how we have helped them become more domesticated through our relationships with them. The raw material does say that we had genetic changes from third density beings incarnated from Mars, that our ancestors' genetic DNA was altered to expedite the process of evolution. If you've ever watched Ancient Aliens, I'm sure you have heard that before, because they talk about it a lot on there. This was also because those beings had made Mars inhabitable, which is why it's very desert-like, and it seems to have remnants of water, but it's mostly very dry. Those beings needed another planet to go to, so genetic alterations were made so they could go live on Earth. The sacral chakra also has to do with reproduction and emotions, things that are prevalent in the second density. Now we have the third density, where a lot of humanity is stuck at. This is where we really learn how to depend on others for survival and teamwork. Through this realization, we have been able to progress by sharing our skills and food with each other for greater survival on a bigger scale, compared to animals which are limited to just themselves or having a pack mentality, often in competition with each other. You can also see how some third density beings are struggling a lot with this concept. They do not want to share and help each other. They want power and they want resources for themselves or a particular group of people. They are not yet mastering the point of the third density. Through being united is where we all can thrive. Teamwork is important for humanity to continue to grow and evolve, not separation. A quote from the book, "The purpose of incarnation in third density is to learn the ways of love. Each entity has unmanifest portions of learning and, most importantly, learning which is involved with the other selves. This has to do with love, loving oneself, loving others, and not being afraid of love. Learning to work together with others. This is to prepare for the fourth density, which is love. People are often blocked by fear. They withhold their love and hide from others trying to love them. They may even cause harm to people trying to love them because they do not understand how to interact with it. It is foreign. That is why time is needed to be spent in the third density to evolve from that level. The fourth density is unconditional love, but it can turn sour when people cannot hold space due to their own darkness, distortions, and negative patterns. The third density is where people tend to think about how they relate to others, especially in terms of outward characteristics of self-consciousness. This is the grouping into pairs, societal groups, and races. Ra says that humanity's interest and attachment to warfare and its expression of hostility is linked with our prioritization of tool making and outward communication instead of trying to develop telepathy to communicate through the mind. This also correlates with the development of the opposable thumb. It encouraged making, holding, and using physical tools instead of seeking inner power. This focus on the outer world instead of an inner one seems to have created a domino effect in our development of a species. Churches, too, for a while, maintained that you needed to come to them to be saved by God. You couldn't worship from home, solidifying this distorted perception that we did not have the power within to change, to grow, to expand consciousness, or to know what is best for us. This is outward dependency instead of recognizing inner power. We are in a time of evolution in which that dynamic is shifting as more of the planet raises its consciousness. This is evolution to the fourth density. Recognizing that we do need others, but not being totally dependent on a particular group. The government and the world's wealthiest people have made it difficult to survive without relying on them in some way. This is not an accident. Mastering the third density is finding that equilibrium and finding new ways to be less dependent on the wealthiest people. This takes away their power and levels out the field. The solar plexus chakra has to do with strength, courage, willpower, and competition. In an unbalanced state, this is someone that is power hungry. Also residing here is impulse and anger. People with an overactive solar plexus chakra take power away from others. We can see all of this in world leaders and leaders of companies who focus on dominating and exploiting others. People with these overactive chakra centers seek power for their own benefit, thus are more motivated for that power and control. They generally operate from that chakra center and are disconnected from the next chakra center, which is the heart chakra, which emphasizes compassion, love, understanding, peace, and empathy. We are really seeing an increase of tension all over the world where the lower class people are getting a lot more fed up with this unequal division of resources. This tension is built up anger surrounding being exploited all over the world. It's important to channel that anger into productive means to influence change of this unequal dynamic. With this process, power will level out, but it depends on how well the bottom half of the pyramid is able to unite against the people controlling everything and take away their power. This is necessary to evolve to the fourth density. The fourth density, according to Ra, is where beings are not so heavy energetically. There is not any disharmony within individuals or others. A quote, "It is a plane of compassion and understanding of the sorrows of the third density. It is a plane striving towards wisdom or light. It is a plane wherein individual differences are pronounced, although automatically harmonized by group consensus. It is more full of life, a plane where you are aware of others' thoughts and vibrations. In this plane, physical pain is minimal. The catalysts for change here are mental and spiritual pain. There are some beings that can operate from fourth density, fifth density here that are on Earth, but it can be difficult for them to maintain relationships if they are surrounded by people who are operating from those lower chakra centers. There are two different perspectives that you can lean towards in the fourth density. Is the way of service to self or service to others. Both have to do with love. Beings who lean towards service to self will try to use new psychic abilities like telepathy to further their own power structure. It is like the difference between the concepts of if everyone just prioritized themselves, then we would be fine, or if everyone just prioritized everyone else, then they would be fine as a society. Both are valid perspectives, and both come with their own challenges as an evolving species. However, as you begin to continue to evolve consciousness and grow higher and higher, there does become a moment where you have to lose the service to self mentality because you realize that we all are one. It's not just you as an individual. And so eventually you do come back to the realization we all are one. So that's the first four densities. I'm not going to talk about the higher ones in the video, but there are higher ones that are discussed in the raw material. Circling back to colors that we see here on Earth, visually, this vibrational difference between them is observed by the cones in our eyes, which send signals to the brain to tell us what color is being perceived. Color isn't really physically tangible, it's just our perception that makes color relevant. Because of that electrical impulse, our perception has shifted. Colors are connected with the electrical structure of our reality. We see certain colors because of our initial programming, but also because how we have evolved as a species through time. Some animals see less colors, some see more, and some can see an infrared because we're all doing different stuff and they needed to develop different vision skills that we don't necessarily need. This is a big theory in the movie The Matrix, of course, that our bodies are just like brains in a jar somewhere connected to electrodes, and none of this is actually real, but our perception that is real. And in a way, it's kind of true. We are having a physical experience in this body right now, but we have extended individual consciousness or a higher self. And greater than that, we ultimately are connected to a greater single consciousness, which is what people say God is. God is also an energy of love, and that is the standard in the universe, that is the constant, and that is the great truth. When they speak of an all-loving God, that is true, but it's less of a him and more of a greater consciousness that we are all little pieces of. What we experience on Earth is a lot of darkness, which is a distortion of the light, and that's why things seem very funky. But to go through such turmoil as was expected when a species at our level is expanding consciousness. As we continue to evolve, a lot of our physical world challenges will change along with it. As physical players in this reality, we can alter the world around us. Our world is a reflection of our collective thoughts, actions, and consequences. The more people evolve to choose love and operate from the heart space is how the world changes. It involves working on oneself to integrate the shadows, which keep us choosing behaviors that are harmful to ourselves and other people. Facing the shadow and choosing self-love and acceptance, which then radiates outward to loving and accepting others the same way. Some struggle with the opposite, where they see greatness in other people but struggle to see the greatness within themselves. One of the questions that was asked in the book was about the number of planets in our galaxy that have life from the 1st to the 5th density. This includes planets that just have like plants or animals on them. And they said approximately 67 million. They did also say that 35% of the planets with life on them are operating from 6th and 7th densities, which are much more advanced than us. We literally cannot comprehend how they understand and view the universe. We have to evolve to those higher levels of consciousness. So let's decenter ourselves from the narrative. I think it's funny when people, think, is there other life out there? And I just think like there is a ridiculous amount. The Law of One book is available free online. It's really interesting and you can like search stuff on there. So it's cool. Just check it out. It's fun. Not sponsored. So you're born at a point on the planet and your DNA is from the species that you were born in. And so your psyche structure is going to be dependent on the planet's consciousness and also the consciousness level of the species you were born into. If you were born on a different planet to a different species, then the structure of your mind and consciousness would probably be a little different. On Earth, we have a conscious and then a subconscious shadow side. But not all psyches are designed that way. More advanced species have already evolved past where we're currently at. And so this means that a lot of things we struggle with on Earth, they don't, because they've already overcome these problems we have with this dimension. This makes life on Earth objectively harder, as many spiritual insights have been forgotten, as a cute little learning exercise. It's so fun. So in the birth chart, natal chart, it is said that the South Node energy was energy that was mastered in a past life, but also there is a great abundance of that energy present in this life. Energy that feels comfortable or familiar. And this is why sometimes when you meet people with planets that are conjunct to the South Node or theirs, that there may be this feeling of familiarity. However, people with this can keep you held back from going towards your North Node if they stay in that shadow energy of that sign. The North Node is the opposite energy and the direction your soul wants you to grow towards in this lifetime, and it can be oftentimes uncomfortable because it is opposite and unfamiliar. This is why people with planets conjunct your South Node end up being lessons to push you into the opposite direction. The South and North Nodes are very karmic, and so they're very tied to fated events that are going to happen in your life. If you stay too much in the South Node or the North Node energy, it will be a lack of balance, and equilibrium is needed between them. Saturn can also indicate more karmic lessons with particular people. If you look at both of their charts and you see that there are like a lot of aspects to Saturn, or even just a few, or involving the nodes, then that's going to indicate there's more karma to clear with that particular person. I think past lives are cumulative, so I believe it's an abundance of energy from all past lives from our current time period. You work on learning certain lessons throughout your time on Earth and gain wisdom that's carried on into the next lifetime. Even if you don't consciously remember your past lives, the imprint and wisdom is part of your soul. I believe that all lives that are to be lived on Earth are already predetermined, but can change if free will alters other plans. It all leads up to a final lifetime on Earth where you have balanced all of the karma and are able to ascend to higher realms of consciousness outside of Earth. From that point, Ra says that you can choose to reincarnate on other planets with the next level of consciousness. I think this can apply to family karma as well. I don't think that you always reincarnate in the same lineage or family, and I think that we're meant to live in many different types of perspectives. I think a lot of more like spiritually or emotionally evolved people came here to clear up karma in certain lineages, and they choose to adopt these more challenging aspects of themselves to overcome for their family. I think these concepts can be kind of difficult to understand at our level of consciousness, and that's why even me trying to explain it this way, it doesn't do it complete justice, but I love to try. We are entered into the matrix at a specific point in time, in space, aka our birth time, date, and location on Earth. Those are the details you need to accurately calculate your natal astrology chart. That is why it has significance. It's the point in which you entered the matrix. That is the chart of the moment for your beginning into this world. Everything born and created has a chart of the moment. Animals too. I love looking at my dog's birth chart, despite people hating, but it's cute. And, but pets have a birth chart as well, because they too had a point in which they entered the matrix. Anything on Earth can be interpreted through the lens of the zodiac. For different subjects, the interpretation will be slightly different when talking about politics, people, or events. Mundane astrology is used for events and politics, and thus will be slightly interpreted differently, as it's analyzing people on a larger scale versus, the individual on a natal chart. Shati agrees. Within operating this matrix, we all have a consciousness that is at varying levels depending on how long you have been reincarnating on Earth for, and how well you are understanding and progressing with the lessons that your soul wants you to learn. The deeper you go within yourself is the greater awareness that you have of the universe and yourself. Expansion of consciousness requires depth. Astrology is a way to dive deeper and understand what your soul wants you to learn in this lifetime and what would bring you the most fulfillment. According to what we know scientifically, the universe operates upon 4 fundamental forces that make the whole system work. That is electromagnetism, gravity, the strong force, and the weak force. These 4 forces govern all movements of the planets as well as the structure of atoms. Gravity is the attraction between masses, like between planets orbiting the sun, regardless of whether or not it's magnetic. Electromagnetism governs interactions between charged particles with electricity and magnetism. They can create a pushing and pulling type of dynamic with magnetic materials. The strong force is what holds the atomic nucleus together, binding the protons and neutrons, despite their natural desire to repel each other. The weak force is responsible for radioactive decay and other certain nuclear reactions in atoms. Radioactive decay is when an unstable atomic molecule loses energy by radiation. The strongest force here is the strong force, followed by electromagnetism, the weak force, and then gravity. By these 4 forces, the universe operates in the way it does. However, there is still a lot that is not understood and yet to be discovered, especially in deep space with dark matter and stuff. So I feel like this understanding may be tweaked as we continue studying the universe. But as of right now, this is a pretty solid kind of agreement going on. Since these 4 forces make the universe work, I figured the concept of consciousness must be tied into these forces. I think our consciousness is able to function due to the electromagnetic energy of the universe. Electromagnetism is electricity and magnetism. These forces unite to create our electromagnetic fields. It looks like a torus or like a donut. The electric part connects with our nervous system, our brain, our neurons, and we function because of those electric impulses. That's why if your heart stops beating, they zap you with a heart defibrillator, which is, a bunch of electrical charges to get that system going again. The Earth also has electromagnetic fields as well as all of the planets in the solar system. So it makes sense that we as humans would feel the effect of the changes of the planets through these electromagnetic fields. We are connected to the Earth's field the most because that's the planet we were born on, and that's also where we currently are, unless you're watching from space. So as all the planets move through space, they create different aspects with Earth, which are acknowledged in astrology. These can be conjunction, square, opposition, trine, sextile, or there are minor aspects taken into account as well. These aspects influence how the energies of the planet are expressed at that moment and how they influence the electromagnetic fields, which then influence us. The structure of our matrix is affected by the planets we have in our solar system and what they have come to symbolize to us. There would be all kinds of changes to our experience on Earth if we didn't have the planets that we do, or we had more planets. There may be the belief that these planets are way too far away to impact us in any way like that. However, the forces of electromagnetism and gravity are an infinite force. Just because you cannot consciously decipher these forces acting upon you does not mean they are not acting on you. They still are. You just cannot decipher it. And I think that speaks more to our limited abilities of perception as humans than the lack of effect that these planets have on us. I believe that these electromagnetic fields affect us more on a subconscious level than something that is obvious. And I also feel this way about astrology, that the planetary transits affect us more subconsciously. And eventually you may see the effects of those changes on the physical world. Electromagnetic fields are infinite, and so are our thoughts. There is no limit to the amount of things that you can think of, so they obviously have a lot of similarities. Some people who are more in tune with the universe can consciously decipher and feel when certain shifts happen, but to people less connected, it can manifest as random changes in mood, like you're feeling more angry today or sluggish, when, if you looked at the transits, you could probably find an association to explain things like that. There are people online who talk about and track the Schumann resonance of Earth, which is the electromagnetic frequencies of the planet. So you can see on this graph here where there's the white and the red and the orange, those are going to be higher concentrations of this energy. This is created by lightning strikes, which causes electromagnetic waves that bounce between Earth's surface and ionosphere. When there's an influx of energy, it can activate people, expand their consciousness, or heal them. This also shows how we truly have this interconnectedness and collective consciousness. We are all on this electrical grid system. This is why that people who are energetically sensitive and tuned into that, they can feel when something's going wrong with someone else, or they can feel when someone physically dies. It's their electrical system leaving the matrix. People who are sensitive to energy can feel other electromagnetic fields, especially intensely. So if you're in the same room with an angry person, their energy can be very intense. Emotions are also connected to the electromagnetic energy field. To be sensitive to energy can be an adaptation, and to disassociate from the energy and the environment can also be an adaptation to survive, especially in abusive and traumatic environments. In each particle of matter, you have protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons are the positively electrically charged particles. Neutrons are neutral, and electrons are negatively charged. The protons naturally want to repel each other due to the nature of magnetism. If you put two magnets together of the same polarity, they're going to repel each other. But the protons and neutrons are held together in the nucleus due to the strong force. So this electricity and magnetism exists in every atom of the universe. In the body, this intelligent energy or consciousness exists in every atom and contains the soul's essence or information within its electric components. Not every atom is magnetic, but these electromagnetic forces are always interacting internally. This is the reason why humans have a frequency. We are made up of vibrations and atoms that are always moving. Humans have a frequency at which we vibrate around 9 to 16 hertz. Everything has a frequency. Therefore, everything has a consciousness. Even rocks. They have atoms, which are moving, and that is the electricity. That is the consciousness. All of the planets and stars have electromagnetic fields like us, thus making them have a consciousness. They are also emitting a frequency. Just because some people don't know how to recognize and connect with this other conscious energy doesn't mean that they aren't conscious. It just speaks again to our own limitations of perception. The frequency of the planets also affects our psyches. Astrology is a way to track and predict the changes of the matrix based on past experiences with planetary positions and their effect on humanity. Computers also work in the realm of electromagnetism, but they lack the connection of being made organically through living beings. This is obviously the difference between AI and us. Electricity has always existed in the universe, but we had to learn how to harness and recreate it. Computers exist on the spectrum of something that humans have created with connection to the intelligent energy. AI can mimic consciousness, but it is subject to the totality of its programming. However, it is improving very rapidly. We have an organic connection to this electricity, and AI does not. That's how we can put little chips in our brain. It's all connected to that neurological process. I used ChatGPT a while back to create a prompt where it was me, and I just put in basic characteristics about me, like I like astrology and spiritual stuff. And then I asked the question like it was me, and it gave responses exactly how I would say them. And you think you're original, and then it's like, oh well, you're just part of the program. And I think this really reiterates how connected things are and how we all are kind of like a program and made of different archetypes. We're all uniquely different, but we're made of similar parts. Astrology has been a way for me to sort and analyze these different creative facets of human consciousness expression. ChatGPT is like a consciousness that has all of these different perspectives, and it can give you a response based off of what it's programmed. And that's how I see the universe when you choose to reincarnate here as who you want to be and what experiences you want to have. I believe the electricity side of the universe is the mental part of the consciousness, and the magnetic aspect is the emotional part of the consciousness. Sometimes in life, you are magnetized towards certain people, places, or experiences. And that is the nature of faith in your life path programming, like a video game. It can attract you to things, and it can repel you from certain things. People who are supposed to be in your life are attracted to you like a magnet. What is meant for you will not miss you. And what you need to learn will not miss you. If someone is not supposed to be in your life, there will be a dissonance and there will be problems until they're out of your electromagnetic field. Even sometimes when you aren't around someone physically, their energy can linger in your electromagnetic field. Especially if you have had consistent interactions with them for a while. And this is because that we are all connected through this conscious energy that exists everywhere in the universe. This is why you can be thinking of someone and they suddenly contact you. Thinking about someone a lot can also create this obsessive energy where it can feel significant or faded, but really the connection is like that because one or both of the people involved are putting a lot of mental energy into thinking about the other person. The electricity and magnetism are also correlated with the masculine and feminine energies. Masculine energy being the electricity and mental plane, while feminine energy is the magnetism or the emotional and intuitive realm. Both of these aspects are important parts of being human. This is why the key to having a more peaceful existence on Earth is to have these energies balance each other. In astrology, the signs are equally divided into masculine and feminine signs as well. Wounded masculine energy is more dominant in the world and has been for a while. This is reflected in how we treat our women collectively and how many world leaders are seeking power over them and their people instead of governing for greater betterment of humanity. It is important to consider how governing decisions being made in the world are impacting people on an emotional level. The more narcissistic of a leader that is in charge, the less they care about the emotional betterment of their people. They will continue making decisions that go against what they need. The wounded masculine does not care about empathy. They care about power, control, domination, and money. In duality, light is associated with the masculine and darkness is associated with the feminine. Emotions are a big part of the human experience, and it's because people tend to let their emotions control their actions, and that's why we have so many problems on Earth. Imagine how much better off humanity would be if everyone could just control their reactions to things and just like, okay, I'm feeling this. Let's think about it. Let's reflect. Let's not, act on that emotion. The dark part of the matrix is also our subconscious programming that everyone came into this life with. This can also be interpreted as the karma and the lessons you came here to learn and the things you were meant to experience. These lessons and karmic relationships are magnetized towards us. That is how our matrix operates. Music has always been very important to humanity because of its clear and universal understanding that has the ability to affect emotions and bond people closer together. Many cultures have traditional types of music to help connect with their ancestors and relate their experiences. This is because sound behaves a lot like emotions. The best musicians are loved for their intense emotional expression and passion in lyrics and their performance. Sound moves through you, like your feelings, and like vibrations. Sound is a form of energy that travels through matter by causing vibrations in the particles of matter. We experience sound. Sound affects us from outside of our bodies. Electromagnetic energy affects us from within. It can affect the mental and emotional state, thus influencing matter. Speakers use magnets to create vibrations which express the sound. Using these vibrations to our advantage is key to healing and being more mindful about the types of music you consume. Cells pick up energy from the energy field. The study of this in science is called epigenetics, where our environment does indeed have an effect on how our genes function. Your emotional state determines your vibration energetically. If you spend most of your time being sad, it's going to be at a lower frequency. That's not to say that being sad is bad. It serves a purpose. Sad music can validate your experience and desire for connection. It can help you feel that you're not alone in your anger or misery. But there's an importance to learning how to let go of the sad feelings and not stay stuck ruminating about the negative things that happen. It's important to try different things to make you feel better physically, mentally, and emotionally. Staying stuck in negative thought patterns keeps us stuck. People can become addicted to their sadness and don't actually want to get better, but to keep having a pity party. And this is why it is very important to stay connected to your body and what it is telling you on an emotional and physical level. It is very easy to stay disconnected from your body with substances and distractions to numb the pain and avoid trauma that has happened. There is this perception that pain is bad and should be avoided because it sucks. And thus, people do what they can to not feel uncomfortable emotions, when really all emotions are a message. Disconnecting from your body can lead to stagnancy or lack of alignment, as you are refusing to tune into the messages. Ethel Kane made a video a little bit ago where she describes this feeling of alignment and connection with God or source energy or consciousness, and she calls it being in the divine theater or completing the ring. And this is where music can take you to a place of transcendence. It is unique to the individual, as different expressions, different songs can create different feelings within us. Not everyone connects with the same music. In a moment where you can listen to someone else's song and feel this connection, not only to the human vessel that created it, but also to the greater source energy. We are all vessels of this great energy for expression and creation. Unfortunately, we live in a society that is very distracting. We consume others' content that can keep us disconnected from who we truly are and what light we can shine. To know yourself and connect with that creative energy of expression requires you to go deeper into the darkest parts of yourself. A quote from Rumi, if you don't know Rumi, he was a 13th century poet and mystic. He says, "When the noise ends, the universe whispers its secrets." If you avoid this silence, then you are disconnected from yourself and your authentic expression of creativity. You may create things that are inauthentic to your being and it will fall flat, or it may not, but the satisfaction will not be there. I'm sure that there are artists out there who get their songs written for them and they've created this brand of a person that's not authentic to them, and I can see how that can be unfulfilling on that level. Circling back to astrology, of course, you can look at the birth chart as insight to the particular perception of your reality, which can be broken down more specifically using the knowledge of the zodiac archetypes, knowledge of the house systems, and plenty of different techniques cultivated throughout written history of our ancient astrologers. Once you establish a pattern and map to understand the universe in, it speaks to you through that form. This is how divination works. Take tarot cards, for example. Your relationship with the cards and their meanings and symbolism and what do they mean to you personally as a reader is how you can best understand and convey the messages that they are giving. This is part of the concept of synchronicity, and that's a way to also strengthen your intuition. The universe is synchronizing a way in which you can deeply understand something in the way that you are seeking it. Synchronicity highlights the power of our thoughts and how much influence we really have in attracting insight into our reality. Certain things about our way of life have been programmed into our psyche through being connected to the Earth's consciousness, or the Matrix. I often wonder sometimes what has actually happened in recorded history of Earth and what has been implanted in our minds as happened, and does that difference actually matter in this little video game? You can think of astrology as being divided by frequencies as well. If you came into the Matrix with a Gemini Sun or Gemini Mercury, your perception is going to be shaped by that filter or lens. Each sign of the zodiac is a different energy, frequency, lens, archetype, and perspective. So that's how I view our matrix and how I relate it to astrology. Don't forget to have fun in this little video game. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Stay